Imagine this. For the past 10,000 years, an alien civilization light years away has been quietly watching Earth, carefully monitoring humanity's every move. What would they have seen? A species using rapid advances in technology to benefit all humankind? A species evolving beyond savagery towards peace and unity? A civilization working in harmony with its planet, preparing to take its place among the stars? That's the story we like to tell ourselves. But let's be honest, that's not the movie they'd be watching. They'd see something else entirely. A species hopelessly divided by imaginary borders, fighting endless wars over flags, gods, and resources. A species with an extraordinary thirst for violence and destruction. A species that builds ever smarter machines, not just to heal or help, but to dominate, surveil, and kill. A species that's trashing the very world it depends on, poisoning the oceans, thinning the atmosphere, and driving entire ecosystems to collapse. They see a species hurtling towards catastrophe at breakneck speed. This wouldn't look like a civilization on the verge of galactic membership. It would look like a species with a death wish. From the outside looking in, they might conclude that we're trying to wipe ourselves out on purpose. The question they'd be wondering is, can humanity save itself before it's too late? Let's run a quick thought experiment. Imagine that a scientist, let's call him Bob, recently made the greatest technological breakthrough in human history. Bob invented a way to pull unlimited clean energy out of thin air. Literally, free energy from the vacuum of space. In other words, Bob has invented the holy grail of human progress. No more fossil fuels, no more energy poverty, no more wars over oil, cheap travel, clean air, a future of abundance. Sounds like the ultimate good news story, right? But would it really be? Let's zoom out for a second. Throughout history, every time that humanity unlocked a new form of energy, we got a huge leap forward. More wealth, longer lives, better living standards. But there's always a dark side to breakthrough technologies, because a new energy source means more deadly weapons. Fire gave us warmth, but also war. Coal gave us the Industrial Revolution, but also empire and conquest. The more powerful the energy, the more devastating the weapon. When we split the atom and unlocked the secret to nuclear energy, the first thing we did was drop 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, killing nearly 500,000 people in the process. So let's go back to Bob and his miracle machine. If someone, anyone, was able to extract limitless amounts of energy from the space around us, this means that someone, anyone, could produce a weapon that would make Hiroshima seem like a firecracker. In theory, it could even threaten the existence of the whole planet. Still sound like a utopia? Now, maybe you're thinking, well, we'll just control who gets the tech. But who's we? Which countries? Which corporations? How do we ensure this tremendous concentration of power won't be abused? And how do we stop bad actors, rogue states, or even just one angry genius from getting their hands on it? History says you don't. 3 years after the US dropped nukes on Japan, the Soviet Union had their own nuclear arsenal. Then began the Cold War, a nuclear arms race between 2 global superpowers that brought humanity closer to annihilation than ever before. The point of this thought experiment isn't to say that technological progress is bad. On the contrary, it's the driving force of progress, and it's what distinguishes us from other species. The key point is that technology is always a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can increase prosperity and living standards, but on the other hand, it can cause more devastating death and destruction. This is the paradox of progress. The better we get at creating technology to solve problems, the more we risk creating tools that can end us. Technology itself isn't evil, it's neutral. It's a mirror that reflects whoever's holding it. But history shows us, not everyone looking in the mirror has good intentions. As the Cold War illustrated, the competitive race between global powers for economic and military supremacy often drives a dangerous race to the bottom. The real danger? We're accelerating our tech, but not our ethics. Our machines are getting smarter, faster, more powerful. But our moral compass? It's barely moving. Sure, there were things that were morally acceptable 300 years ago that are no longer acceptable today. But if you look at recent history, and indeed the world around us today, you'll find countless examples of barbaric, evil, grotesque acts of violence and brutality being committed against fellow humans. In other words, humanity's ethical development is a slow, gradual, and uneven process. All the while, technological progress soars at an exponential rate. This gap between what we can do and what we're ready to handle, we can call that the ethical deficit, and it's widening fast. The ethical deficit is not new, but for most of history, it wasn't an existential threat. Sure, we used to hurt each other with sticks, stones, guns, and bombs, but we couldn't wipe ourselves out. Now we can. And while we've not yet developed Bob's miracle machine that can extract limitless energy from thin air, the technologies we do have possess extraordinarily destructive potential. Today, there are over 12,000 nuclear warheads on Earth, enough to destroy the planet many times over. The most powerful thermonuclear bomb ever tested was more than 1,500 times more powerful than what was dropped on Hiroshima. If we ever descend into a modern nuclear war, it's not just game over for individual cities, it's game over for civilization. Now, this might seem unlikely, but how unlikely is it really? Ask most people when humanity came closest to self-destruction. Many will likely say the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, when the Soviet Union placed nukes just off the US coast, bringing the world's two superpowers to the brink of nuclear war. This was an extremely dicey moment, but it wasn't actually the closest we came to the precipice. Since 1947, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have maintained the doomsday clock, an annual assessment of how close humanity is to global catastrophe. And each year the clock is updated based on a scientific assessment of global risks. As the clock moves closer to midnight, we inch closer to catastrophe. According to the doomsday clock, the closest humanity has ever come to disaster wasn't during the Cold War. It was, well, it's actually today. In 2025, the clock was moved to 89 seconds to midnight, the closest we've ever been to disaster. In justifying the move, the scientists point to the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, both of which have the potential to spiral out of control into a global conflict, which could turn nuclear. They point to the alarming trend of global powers scaling up nuclear arsenals and new countries scrambling to get them, as well as the lack of any meaningful global governance to prevent their proliferations. As the scientists put it, the countries that possess nuclear weapons are increasing the size and role of their arsenals, investing hundreds of billions of dollars in weapons that can destroy civilization. The nuclear arms control process is collapsing, and high-level contacts among nuclear powers are totally inadequate given the danger at hand. Disturbingly, they also point to an escalating global race to weaponize outer space. In recent years, the US, China, and Russia have all created new space-focused military divisions. And while details are scarce, all are reported to be investing heavily in new space-based weapon systems, like directed energy weapons. But things get worse. The scientists even point to evidence that Russia recently launched a satellite with a dummy nuclear warhead on it into space, raising fears that we may soon even see thermonuclear weapons placed into orbit. That's right, nukes in space pointing down at us, defenseless minions on planet Earth. The growing militarization of space represents a whole new frontier for human warfare, raising the stakes to just terrifying new heights. With tensions rising around the world, this should concern us. Because when we take a step back and look at the big picture, the truth is we're one war, one accident, or one miscalculation away from irreversible disaster. The ethical deficit is spiraling out of control. But here's the real kicker. Nukes? They're 20th century technology. It's what lies ahead in the 21st century that should really scare us. Artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, quantum computing, gene editing, synthetic biology, fusion power, nanotech. The 21st century is giving birth to technologies that are set to transform society more dramatically than at any stage since the Industrial Revolution. Each of these technologies hold huge potential to transform the world for the better, or become the stuff of nightmares. The big risk here isn't that AI robots rise up and enslave humanity, as happens in the Hollywood movies. The biggest threat is that we humans use AI to find ever more lethal ways to turn on each other. And unfortunately, this is already happening. As the Doomsday Clock assessment points out, AI is already guiding weapon systems in Ukraine and Gaza. Governments are already investing heavily in creating swarms of killer AI drones, otherwise known as lethal autonomous weapon systems. that can select and kill targets without any human intervention or guidance. AI and machine learning can also engineer exotic new chemical and biological weapons, more deadly viruses, new lethal toxins, new ways to kill and destabilize, with no antidotes to stop them. AI is not replacing human evil, but it's supercharging our capacity to inflict it. Like the famous Daft Punk song, AI can take tasks that we humans do, but do them harder, better, faster, stronger. It can perform complex tasks that would take humans months or years in mere seconds. This in turn will put rocket boosters up the development of other frontier technologies. What happens when you mix together advanced AI with nuclear physics, quantum computers, advanced robotics, gene editing? No one knows, but the horrors that cocktail could produce should concern us all. The risk isn't that the machines betray us, it's that we'll betray ourselves. All of this is happening during a period of growing global turbulence and political instability. Superpowers scrambling to stay ahead, old empires falling, new powers rising. No rulebook, no brakes, no emergency stop button. Just a high-stakes game of chicken with a technological time bomb that could blow up in our faces at any minute. As the scientists behind the doomsday clock put it, blindly continuing on the current path is a form of madness. The admittedly hypothetical alien race watching us from afar would be gobsmacked by our stupidity and irrationality. Now, the point of this video isn't to terrify people into thinking that Armageddon is just around the corner. Don't get me wrong, the outlook for humanity is not great just now, and it's amazing how many people seem blissfully unaware or just not that bothered by how rapidly we're careering towards catastrophe. The point instead is to highlight that none of this is inevitable. Our dance with self-destruction isn't the result of some natural force that's beyond our control. It's the result of a political, economic, and social system that has been designed by us. We are doing this to ourselves. We're not passengers on a runaway train. We built the train, we laid the tracks, we chose the direction, which means we can change course. The problem is that we're not the ones driving. The levers of power are in the hands of the global elite. The politicians, the billionaires, the tech bros, the warmongers in the military-industrial complex. Egotistical maniacs chasing profit, power, and geopolitical supremacy, all of who benefit from the status quo. Do you really trust these people to steer us away from the cliff edge? Because at the moment, they're driving full steam ahead. If we want to survive, if we want our children to live in a world worth inheriting, we desperately need to change course. This doesn't mean turning our backs on technology and going back to the Stone Age. Far from it. Instead, it means finding ways to make technological progress serve moral ends. In other words, we need to close the ethical deficit, and we need to do it fast. This simply can't be achieved under our existing system, one based on greed, competition, and never-ending expansion. A system where power resides in the hands of politicians who are bought and sold by vested interests. A system where our most powerful technologies are controlled in the hands of a few billionaires, many of who are already making plans to escape Earth when disaster inevitably does hit. If we want a sustainable future for our children, we need to create a new system. One focused on serving the common good of humanity over greed and hubris. A system that promotes cooperation and sharing over cutthroat competition. A system that works in harmony with the natural world rather than plundering it. A system where technology is built to serve people and planet, not power and profit. A system that brings scientific progress into line with a moral conscience. But let's not pretend we can just wish this into existence. The world's powers aren't going to come together, join hands and start singing Kumbaya together anytime soon. The ruling elites won't give up power. They won't disarm. They won't stop chasing the next big weapon or the next big war. Turkeys don't vote for Christmas, which means it's up to us, the citizens, the people, the 99%. The ruling elites might have more power and resources, but we have one thing that they don't: people power. But only if we wake up, only if we organize, only if we demand a better future together, across borders, across ages, and across cultures. It's time to stand up and say, enough. You do not represent us. We are not pawns in your arms race. We're one species, one planet, and we want to live. Because another world is possible, but the clock is ticking. So if you believe there is a better way, if you believe we can redesign the system, make sure you like and subscribe. This is a journey we're going to be going on together, and there's a lot more to come.